Oh god, I love being alone with this. It's so awesome. Hey everybody, welcome to the Critters live stream, critique stream. I'm alone today. We're doing a two-parter because Dan is scuba diving right now while he's practicing. So yeah, he'll be back later today. So in a few hours we'll actually be coming on again and doing more critiques, because obviously I wanted to you know, do it today, make sure that we actually got to it on the right time. But yeah, it'll be coming on again, so I'll be uploading 2 of them. So I got 3 I'm gonna do today, you know, for the next hour or so, however long it goes. And yeah, if you don't know, this live stream, the Critters live stream, is a critique stream, and what we do is take images through our email. So you send your stuff to CrimsonCritters@gmail.com. Let us know what you're going for as far as like a narrative, the tone, you know, just general like feel of the image, the character designs, what you were trying to do but maybe you didn't feel like you made it, whatever else. Just anything you can tell us to help us better critique your image and, you know, help you out. So yeah, this is every Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully I won't be alone all the time. Otherwise we'll have to make adjustments, which would suck, because then I would always be here just being like, well, welcome, my name's Dave, and oh god. So, first one up is by Dominick Critelli. It's sort of like Lizard Fight Club kind of guy. And basically he says this is his most finished image that he has. He'd like to know how to push it and make it better. I think the narrative and the idea is pretty clear in this, you know? So it's like, what am I gonna do? It's not a whole lot extra stuff to think of as far as the narrative goes. Because, hey, he's a lizard fighter dude. You know, he just wants to... I think Batman's in the crowd back there, and some guys with cowboy hats, and maybe it's like a superhero fight club. I can't really tell. It's kind of what it seems like, though. I don't know if you can see that in the, you know, images like Batman. Some vampire over on the right. Over there's a cowboy and some dude with spikes on his shoulders. I don't know what's going on or where this lizard is. But yeah, let's start critiquing it. So first thing that pops out to me immediately, and you know, this is something that a lot of people do, and you gotta watch out for it, is this edge hugging thing right here on the edge. See that? The arm is just touching. It's just touching the edge of the canvas, and you can't do that because it creates a tangent. You don't want to have stuff touching edges. Same thing up here. His nose is like just about touching the top there. You want to have, you know, like, especially for a big horizontal like this big line, it's one rule, and you know, when you're doing the composition for an image, to break up straight horizontal lines, straight vertical lines, you want to put something there because it just creates this awkwardness. There's just kind of like moving you side to side through the image as opposed to breaking it up and giving you some room. Let me see. So if I brought that down, just like right here, I could just easily do that. And because this is some sort of Fight Club thing, you know, we can put, what? We can put barbed wire up there. You can do all sorts of stuff. So let me just do that. It's the first thing I want to do. You know, you can look up what barbed wire looks like, but you just don't want to have that weird composition going on. Lose the tangents. The other thing that comes up right away, I'll quickly go in and make the rest of the adjustments. Yeah, barbed wire stuff, whatever. Fill that space up. Maybe put some torn clothes in it like some guy tried to climb out, whatever. Things like that. Maybe some blood on the rail right there where a dude cut himself trying to get out. Yeah. Anyways, let me go in and do the other change I was gonna do. So because he's, you know, right at the edge of the image, you want to move him over into a sweet spot. And this is where like a rule of thirds comes in. We always talk about that on here. But like you see, you still have plenty of room to move the head over to the left and the arm also, the other arm behind him. So I'm gonna do that and move him into the sweet spot. So let me select just the dude. And I'll make that quick fix. So no page fear. Quickly paint out that arm. Alright. So another thing you want to do, looking at this, it's like, you know, what's going on? Where is he? What's this light hitting him? Why is he so saturated? You know, like if you ever looked at, you know, like I can go on, I'll open up an image right now. You know, let's look up alligator. So I'm on Google, type in alligator. What do you see? Do any of the alligators look that green to you? You know, like what do they look like? You know, I'm looking at an alligator right now. You know, like if you can pull those things in, it'll help you so much more. I mean, like it seems green just because that's what you're used to seeing in like cartoons. You're used to seeing that just all over the place. It's like it's not actually green though. You know, it's like all over here. You know, none of these images are alligators. None of them are green. And plus, they have a lot of cool textures. Things like that. I mean, like you can play with, like on this one that I just pulled up, you know, you have this nice kind of like slimy look to them. And because this is a Fight Club, you know, like, or whatever this is, I'm just assuming that's what you're going for. You know, he can be slimy, he can be sweaty, you know, he's an alligator dude. So you can actually use those elements from the swamp, you know, images of alligators crawling out of the water and all that to give yourself, you know, some extra, you know, extra shine, extra focal points, contrast. You know, like you could put the light right on his face and have it bouncing off, creating this like really sharp contrast as far as, you know, like the speculars and the lights on the water wetness. So it's cool. And in the shadows, you have secondary light, and that's one thing that you're not playing with. So like, what's the secondary light source in this? Well, I'm assuming since it's nighttime, you know, you have this like purple sky, and then you have like this light coming in from the top right. I'm going to assume it's like a street light. You thought he was a dinosaur dude. Yeah, but the thing is about dinosaurs is we don't see them. So what is the closest thing to a dinosaur? It's an alligator. I know I made that leap right there without really explaining why I did, but that's why I did it, is because alligators exist, you know? Dinosaurs don't exist, so you can't necessarily look at a dinosaur because nobody knows what they look like, you know? You have to pull from something that really exists, like something that's around right now that can help you, you know, better understand your image. And that being said, dinosaurs weren't green either, like Alexon just mentioned. You know, I mean, like, they're not going to be like neon green. It's never going to happen. I'm just going to tone it down. I have a color layer right now. So let me just take a brush, and I'll just brush that in. You know, that much saturation doesn't really happen all too often in nature in general, so it usually doesn't look right. It's not going to look exactly like what I'm doing right now, but I'll pull into it and you'll see where I'm going. So I'm using soft light layer now, and I'm going to start pushing the textures and stuff in the skin. Toning down that really strong highlight you have in the bandages too. Like, look at bandages, you know, they're not bright white and super reflective, especially when they're bandaging something, you know, like they're gonna collect dirt, grime. If they're punching a dude's face, there's gonna be blood on them. You know what I mean? Think about that stuff when you're working on an image like this. I mean, especially for what this is, you know, you can really play with that. One thing that I noticed right away is that he's like, he's sort of just looking off to the side. He's not really looking at us, and because there's not a whole lot going on as far as like a scene, you know, you probably want to have him turning towards us, like where the dude he's gonna beat the crap out of. So like I would, in general, I would just take the whole head and move it over to looking at us a little bit more. Just have him roaring at us. That'll help a lot. Dan will be on later with me on part 2 of this. Splitting it up. And again, when I come back and I add in that red that you had in the mouth, I'm going to tone it down again because it's way too red. Again, you know, you got to go in and actually look at the inside of a mouth. Like, why? Like, what does it look like? You know, like if I come in and I look at a real alligator's mouth, it's kind of like pink and white. It's not bright red. You know, even on the inside of a dude's mouth, it's like it isn't that color. You have to actually check it out when you're, you know, referencing stuff and trying to make a realistic character, if that's what you're going for. You know, if this were like a stylized thing, I mean, you started to render it realistically, so that's what I'm gonna do with it. And a creepy thing you can do with the eyes, I mean, like, at least I think it's scarier, is if you go a little bit black. But this is just what I would do. You know, obviously you don't have to do that. You can go more man, but I would make it creepier because he's already like a scary lizard guy, just to push the, you know, the I don't want to fight this dude kind of look. Is it Killer Croc from Batman? He didn't say it was supposed to be. I mean, it kind of looks like that, but I mean, considering that there's kind of like hero-ish figures in the background, or there were before I painted them out. But, you know, knows? I'm not gonna go with that in mind. I'm just gonna go with a lizard dude. I'll bring back that yellow in the eyes here for you. And then that thing I talked about with, like, you know, speculars and all that. Yeah, today's the Super Bowl. Oh God. I'm not looking forward to going outside today. Especially since I'm from Boston, so it's like, you know, if the Patriots do anything today, it's like everybody's gonna die. No, not everybody's gonna die, but there's just gonna be tons of douchebags in the street. It's the worst. So bear with me for a second. One thing I would suggest in the actual character design itself is bringing in the sort of like spikes that come off of you know, like the textury, leathery spikes that come off of an alligator's skin, and bring it into the actual design. Break up the silhouette so that it's not just, you know, it's not just an alligator dude, you know? Oh, that sound. Let me fix it. Well, I'll fix it as much as I can. It's usually because something touches the fan or something. One thing you can do too that I would suggest, because like with the character, the way he is, like let me just go back to what it was. Defining forms in a picture, you know, like it becomes kind of crucial when you're rendering, you know, because you gotta show that this is a 3D form. So it's like the lighting, the way you have it set up, and the way I was kind of talking about it. You had it set up so that, like, in my mind, because they're outside and there's light hitting him, and it's sort of like a street kind of look with a fence and stuff, that there is a street light coming from the top right. You know, that's what I'm assuming. So generally when there's a street light, there's usually one in the distance, so I would use that as a secondary light source for this side of his face. And that way I can bump up the form like that. Get it off of that super dark background. And the other thing is abs and muscles. They're not as defined as you made them. So if I zoom in here, you have this really defined section, and that's not how they look. There's, you know, a blend there. You know, muscles don't really work like that. They're not constantly flexing. So you have to fix that. You know, you just reference some bodybuilders, but like, you know, that, you know, like what I was trying to say is, if you reference bodybuilders, don't just totally stick to like the ones where they're completely like ripped, flexing all the way to, you know, show off and the judging. It's like you want to get dudes that are just kind of there, like kind of just like posing for something, but not flexing like crazy. Like maybe look at, you know, ripped people on the beach or something like that, where they're just kind of walking around. You want to make sure that when you're rendering this stuff, you're not doing it from like, you know, you're not referencing photos of dudes who are just flexing every single muscle. It ends up looking awkward, especially for something like this, where this dude's, you know, fighting. Like what would be tensed right now in this character is his neck muscles, because he's screaming. Or, you know, you had the dude kind of like with his mouth open. I'm just going to emphasize that motion by defining out the muscles right there. Also, one thing that's weird, and somebody just brought it up in the chat, it's the jeans. The weird thing about it is that, like, for whatever reason, it seems like they made jeans to fit a, you know, alligator man, and that's kind of weird. So it's like you gotta make them not so perfect, you know, like, because right now they're just kind of like just blue jeans that this alligator was like, yeah, these fit pretty good. I think I'll wear these to the next Fight Club meeting. You know, but you don't want to do that. You know, like make them look like it's been worn by a guy who's also an alligator. You know. So aside from that, you see how his legs kind of come down like perfectly. You know, they're like flat, like that. If you want him to pop out of the image, you want to render them so he's like kind of stepping towards us. So like start using the form like that. Like let the brush strokes flow with the actual form and how it's moving. So like I'll wrap it now. Move his belt buckle more, like he's turning towards us. So right now it's kind of going around his body like he doesn't really have a waist. And you want to fix that. Forgot I shut off that layer. But yeah, I'm gonna make some like rips in the actual jeans. So he looks less like a dude in jeans. Yeah, that was my dog. Chelsea just went out to walk her.
What?
Beautiful puppies. like spit and stuff to his mouth, good coming out, whatever, things like that. Another thing for a character like this is that he's the focal point, so you don't need to have so much emphasis on everything else. You don't really need to render everything. Like, a problem with an image like this, like let me go back to the original, is you have like in the background here this chain link fence, and it's like you just went and found, you know, this perfect chain link fence. It's like you went and found a chain link fence and just put it right in the image, and that's not what you would see, you know. It's just not at all what you would see. You want to lose that a little bit because there's way too much focus on it. So I'm gonna just go in with a soft round brush with 20% opacity, just select a darker color and just kind of start to lose a lot of the fence, just using the colors you already have. I'm just dotting around, creating more of an atmosphere. Like, you'll still be able to see it, but it won't demand so much attention. Same thing with the board back there. I can lose that a bit. I can push it back further in the image by making it look like there's some sort of fog or something. If you put too much detail back there, it's gonna take away from your image. You know, like, you might want to render everything. That might be like the first thing you think of doing, is just being like, well, I gotta do absolutely everything in the image. It's gotta look like a fence, it's gotta look like a sky, it's gotta look like there's guys in the background, when really all you have to do is hint at it. You know? Then I'm gonna take the sky color and I'm gonna start to bring it into the shadows, because right now the secondary light isn't really there. It's still the green, so I'm gonna start laying in the purple. So that secondary light is gonna hit in all the areas of shadow, and, you know, wherever there's that atmosphere that isn't affected by light source up there. Let me see. So you gotta choose what color the street lights are, if that is, you know, what's happening right now, if it's street lights. I would go for those like old, shitty, like 70s kind of yellowy street lights. I don't know, some people still have those. I know when I lived in New Hampshire they had those like on the roads, and they were just really crappy looking. So I would use that because your sky is already purple, so you might as well use that orange glow to make the guy pop off the background. Add that around the character a bit. They have streetlights in New Hampshire. Yeah, they do. Around the mountains, they got some streetlights. So let's see. I'm gonna bump it up in places. So is the person who did this in the chat, by the way? Curious. get something out of this. I'm gonna add some little bits of, probably not. But anyways. I'm just trying to push the eye to the points of the image that I feel are the focus, just in the face and in the intensity. Yeah, I can go in and, you know, render the crap out of his face and make it not so weird, but, you know. I don't want to do absolutely all the work. That's like the one thing about paintovers is like you don't want to do it so much that it becomes just like all of a sudden it's just your image and you're like, hey, you should have done something completely different. You should have done what I did. It's easy to get carried away in a critique like that. Alright, so this is about all I'm gonna do for this right now. Just gonna, you know, show you the before and after. Hopefully you see how emphasizing the sort of like feeling of the character, you know, that scary lizard kind of like yelling, strong, dinosaur looking guy. You can push more of the elements of like an alligator. I would push more of the inhuman elements so that he's not just a guy with green skin and an alligator head, you know, because stuff like that, like I'm just, you know, quickly I'm just sort of drawing in bumps on the muscles, you know, just anything like that. You know, look at an alligator's skin, see what you can do to change a guy, alter him. But yeah, so before and after. Yeah, the yellow is too yellow. I can turn it down. Where is that yellow layer? But yeah, you get the idea. So, before and after. Here's the before. And here is the after. So, before and after. Basically, lose a lot of the details in the background, push the elements that need to be pushed, like the character, the elements within the character, lose a lot of that saturation, play more with, you know, complementary colors. You have this obvious purple night scene background, and, you know, you can pop him off just by using a little bit of yellow or orange or anything like that. You know, add more things to him that feel less human, things like that, and yeah, you should be able to hopefully, you know, sell the idea a bit better. So I'm going to save this and move on to the next one. So, Alligator Cage Fighter. Oh, by the way, that was Dominick, Critelli. Thanks for submitting. Hopefully you can use that. On to the next one. This is Paul Canavan. He says, hey guys, I love some crits on this sketch. I think the demon chap needs to be a bit more dynamic. I started this without a strict goal. Or sketch of the anatomy on the big guy is mapped in, blah blah blah. Originally, I wanted him to be fairly stationary while the hero is in motion, but it looks too flat. Also, the color palette is basic at this stage. I imagine probably red lighting from below and blue from the hero's blade. Possibly a green hue over the demon with contrast, but it could be overkill. Any ideas would be greatly appreciated. Alright, so you have this scene where it looks like you know, this warrior dude is confronting this big, sort of rocky, cave-dwelling thing. So what you want to really emphasize right now is probably the size of the creature versus the size of the hero to push the idea that it's some big encounter. And that's usually the thing that people want to do. You know, when it's something like this is, you know, some scene where a guy's confronting some big monster, you want to push scale. You want to push, you know, that element of just like man versus huge beast. Like the one that we did last time was that stadium one. Sort of the same idea, you know. I'm gonna crop out the cinema thing just so that I can get a better idea on the composition. I'm gonna move some stuff around because right now the placement is a bit weird. So, like I was saying, same thing with rule of thirds. You know, when you're not playing with shapes or other kind of compositionary elements, you know, like spirals or big triangles or anything like that, you know, like that's what I always end up doing is the rule of thirds. But there's all sorts of stuff you can do. Like if you want to push elements like we did in the stadium scene where the guy was fighting the monster last week, you know, it's like you can do spirals. You can make it like a cave going to the beast and then have him be like a big triangle in the center, you know, and have the character going towards it. You know, or you can do some rule of thirds thing, or you can do, you know, you could do some like cool perspective thing and use, you know, big triangles all pointing at the dude. You know, have the monster here looking up at him sort of thing, and the guy down here, which is what I would do. But I mean, I'm going to do first quick placement stuff and atmosphere that you can put into this to actually like use what you already have, and then I'm going to do another solution, which is, you know, because you said this is a sketch, I'm going to suggest an entirely new idea with the same characters in the same environment. So let me do the quick placement stuff first so that I can you know, address those issues. So just right now, like nothing really falls on the points of interest in an image. They're just kind of like off to the right or off to the left, and you know, whatever, like there's no real sweet spot. So I'm gonna fix that. So let me just select the guy. I'm gonna move him. I'm gonna move him like right here. I'm gonna make him a bit smaller. Right now the monster doesn't really look like he's looking at the guy, which is a problem. And the perspective is weird too. You have this thing going on right now where he's like, the character right now is flat, right? So it feels like he should be on a cliff edge or something. But instead you have this, you know, the environment's sloping up like this, and it just reads weird, like he should be climbing up it. I mean, if this were that and he were just like on this piece that were flipped towards us like this way, then he should be like climbing up it a little bit. Like these should be like rocky steps or something. Like he's just coming over a little, like, I don't know, rocky bit in the cave and seeing it. But I'm just gonna play with the idea that he's on the edge of something. If you can, you know, like, do some perspective stuff. You know, like, learn about perspective, because, I mean, well, if you can. I know you can, so do it. But, you know, you want to be informed when you're doing this, because it's just gonna look bad unless you plan for it. Like, I can show you guys a really quick way to do perspective. This isn't the right way, so don't get it stuck in your head this is the only thing you should do. But just a quick little tutorial on the side. Go to your shape tools. It's you know, right over on the left in the toolbox. Click polygon tool. Up in the sides, type 99. You see that up there? And then there's a drop down arrow right next to that, next to all the shapes. You click that, you check the box that says star, and where it says indent sides by, you type 99%. And just a really quick thing, if this is a perfectly vertical, I mean horizontal layout, you could just do this. Like, I'm dropping down a guide right here. So there's my horizon line, yeah? And then all I have to do is select that shape tool and go like this. I click where it intersects, and then I pull out like that, and all of a sudden I have lines of perspective. I can change the color to that or whatever. So yeah, try that. It should help you. It's just really simple, easy way to set up perspective lines. So there you guys go. Again, polygon tool, size 99%, click the drop down arrow, type 99%, and in the indent sides by, when you click star, blah blah blah. This will be on YouTube. Watch it later. So anyways, back to the image. Right now, there's not a lot serving this scene. What I mean by that is that, like, he's just kind of there, and the monster's just kind of there, and the environment's just kind of there. And what I mean by that is that you have complete control over this entire thing. You can do whatever you want, you know? There's no limit to what you can do to push everything in this picture. Like, you can alter the rocks, you can change the landscape, you can change the shape of things, you can do whatever you want to fix this. You know, like, what I'm gonna do right now is just take the rocks and point them at what I want you to see, you know? Just quickly make the rocks arching shit or coming down like that, pointing. I mean, like, literally just make arrows. You know, make arrows that are pointing at whatever you want. You know, like, have the rocks coming down and out and whatever. You know, you don't have to do it exactly like that, but I'm just saying that, like, you have to do, you know, you have to really utilize everything. Like, push all the elements. Realize that you don't have to adhere to, like, exactly what a cave looks like to make it look real. You know, you don't have to do that. So, you said that you wanted the sword to be a light source. The problem with that is that the sword isn't bright enough to reach that monster. It shouldn't be, because it makes the monster feel small. And also, the level of value on him, he's so dark that he comes forward. You know, it's the same thing as if you've ever been to a city, you know, been up on a building in the daytime, or if you've ever, you know, in the middle of like a foggy day, you know, what happens as objects recede into the distance? You know, there's layers of atmosphere between you and those objects, so they fade back, and that creates a sense of depth, you know. So you can do that in your image, you know, like I can come in right now, make this guy feel much bigger by just selecting that background color and just brushing it in over the dude, and have him coming through there like he's not right in the distance. And the way you can create that depth is by putting things in front of the guy and the monster with, you know, layered depth. So like right now I can take another rock and I can put it in the midground, you know, and then I can go over that with some atmosphere and push it a little bit further back. And then I can move stuff into the very foreground and put some more atmosphere between that and the rocks behind that. So you see what I mean? Like, you can push the distance in a piece pretty easily. You just gotta think about it, you know, think about how we see things. And then stuff in the very far back that's not really in focus because it shouldn't be. And then you can also make his eye glowing a bit more, his mouth glowing a bit more, whatever you want to do. Does the level of detail always recede with the environment with atmospheric interference? Yeah, I mean, you should still have the, you know, light source in the image, like for instance his face over here. Like, this is gonna be a detailed area, but it's not super sharp. Like, I'm going in right now with a soft round brush and I'm just dotting around. But like I said, it's a soft round brush, so I'm not going to use like a hard round brush and just sharpen the hell out of everything, because that wouldn't make sense. I also have him like interacting with the environment, like he's this rock dwelling dude, but you know, like have him like pulling himself out of the ground or something, like putting weight on a rock over here and lifting himself up. Like, this dude just woke him up, you know, add more narrative elements to your images. Like that, you know? And then if you're gonna do something like that, add more shit falling off of him like he just came out of the ground. You know, think about these things as you're doing them. You know, like have his other arm coming forward, that'll create more depth. Coming forward to grab onto a rock or something. You have this sort of break in the cave coming from the top left. I noticed that in your original. Like, it was hitting right here, hitting here, hitting his horn. You can use that too. It's atmospheric elements to, you know, push stuff back in the image. And it can also do really cool things. Like if I take beams of that and I just bring it in. You know, you can create cool little like spot areas of you know, light coming through, like the way they do in a forest, hitting some rocks here and there. So keep the value in a certain range, like don't pop out the face as much as the foreground rocks. Yeah, you don't want to have, like, with this image, you know, like, the foreground area, you know, that's going to be, you know, blurred out. Like, this area right here isn't going to be as sharp as him. You know, like, this sort of midfield that this guy's on, that's going to be the sharpest area, and this part back here, it's going to be sharper because there's a highlight from his eyes and his mouth, he's kind of glowing and all that, because it's going to be defined forms in the darkness, right? The rest of it doesn't have really a whole lot of light hitting it, so there's no reason to define the forms. You're looking at that area because of the contrast, so naturally that's the second place you look, therefore it's going to be defined a bit more. You know, you got to think about it as how you see it. What are you looking at when you're here? If you're here in this environment, what do you see? Well, his sword's really bright. You look there first. You look around the character first, so that's pretty sharp. And then you look at the monster's face. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to go crazy and render out all the rocks. It's something that a lot of people do. I know it's hard to think that way, but you got to get used to it. You know, because that's just how it is. That's just how people see. You see the things that pop. You know, that's why contrast is the way it is. You know, that's why you see complementary colors and whatever, and that's why there's focal points in an image and soft to light. I mean, soft to hard, all that stuff. So I'm gonna bring more things around the little like hero dude over here. Like I said, I was going to do this, and then what I think you should have done from the beginning. So, yeah, there's my little paint over of, you know, what you already have. So I'm going to do before and after real quick. You know, this isn't a ton of changes, but, you know, before and after, before, after. And now, just something to keep in mind for all of you guys, right? Let me just go in real quick and just start. Because the one thing about all the images that I see in here, and the thing that's lacking most in pretty much everybody's images, is narrative. And emphasizing, you know, just general emotion in the image and what's happening and pushing everything. So like for this, it's obviously the dude versus the monster, and the monster's huge. And I've done a similar paint over like this, but I'm gonna do it again. So here I have the guy, foreground, sword out, shield, yeah, it's right there, low perspective, stuff blowing in the wind because the thing just lifted up or whatever. And then I'm gonna quickly draw in the monster. He won't be this dark, bear with me. Because you have elements in the monster that you're not totally utilizing. Again with the forms pointing up. And the atmosphere. Use that green that you already had. See what I'm saying though? You just want to push the focus of the image. You want to emphasize everything to make things that are dynamic and pop, you know? And then you can still have that light coming in from the top that you had breaking through the cave, which is cool, but have it only on the areas you want to see. You know, like, just use all the elements to serve the image. So the cave light is breaking on the monster's face now, instead of all over the place, you know? Yeah, just everything is in your control. The whole image, it's, you know, it's all about pushing an idea. You know, and you control every aspect of that. And you have to keep that in mind always in these, because, you know, the client wants to see the most exciting thing, especially for something like concept art, film, any of that stuff. It's just dynamic, exciting, you know, theatrical, all that crap. You know, shit dripping out of his mouth. Whatever. Whatever the hell you want to do. But anyways, I hope that helps. But good image overall, you know, good idea. It's just pushing everything. Pushing everything. So here's the new composition as opposed to the old one. So the old composition and the new one. So I'm pushing the size, pushing the action, intimidation, you know, trying to make it more exciting and changing everything to fit exactly what I think you're going for, which is this moment when they see the monster and it's this, you know, hero versus the big evil whatever. So before and after the actual paint over. So there you go. Save it. Yeah, composition is always key in all this stuff. It's just if you don't have the right composition, then you're not, you know, serving your image the best you could. And you always want to do that. That's the whole point of this, is to create something that works with exactly what you're doing, and everything is tuned into that. Alright. On to the next one. This one's obviously different, but I wanted to critique something that wasn't what we always do, the same sort of style, everything. So this is by Batt. It's a Conan cover. It's a, you know, like, make him believe he's working for Dark Horse. He wants to show that he can do it. Alright, so he knows it's not really his style, line work, all that stuff. He wants to know how to push it forward. So, first thing that strikes me is this spot up here. You know, what's going on? You know, why is this happening? And see, because what this suggests to me, the girl here, you know, like if I zoom in on her, she's scared, right? You know, she's freaking out, falling into this pit. Conan looks a bit weirded out, like, ah, what the fuck? But the thing that's weird is that, okay, obviously it's against their will. And I'm talking purely narrative right now. They're falling in here. They didn't want to fall in here. Yeah? They didn't want that to happen. But he has a sword and a shield. Why? Why, if he got pushed, why wouldn't they? If they had the opportunity to throw them both into a well, why would he have his sword? Why would he have his shield? You know? Like, I don't understand. That's the one part that stands out to me. Like, you have to show more story elements or something, because right now it looks like Conan dove in head first with his sword out and he was just like, yeah, fucking octopus monster. Like, he wasn't, you know, trying not to fall in. While the girl obviously is scared and doesn't want to be there. So that's sort of the problem with this. Yeah, and that's the point of what I'm trying to say. Somebody just said it. Conan doesn't get pushed into a well. Exactly. He doesn't. And that's why this, like, wouldn't be a cover for Conan, you know what I mean? Like, that just wouldn't happen. He wouldn't, if he still had his sword and his shield, he wouldn't be in the well. He'd be killing people. And that's the first thing I would do, really, is either get rid of the sword and the shield, like somebody took it from him and then threw him in there, or make it scarier up top or something. Yeah, and the shield is just a tiny buckler and doesn't feel like Conan. I mean, like, when I think of Conan, I do not think of shields. Shield implies that he's trying to protect himself. And if you've ever read Conan, you know that he doesn't care. So I'm going to try and figure this out, because right now it doesn't necessarily work, especially with the girl. I'm gonna move this around. So let me go in and quickly do some changes to the pose. What I would do in general for the Conan thing is turn it into like a swinging motion. Like, keep the same dynamic feel to it, but change it to more like he's about to slash it or something. That kind of thing. Not exactly that. You know what I mean? The buckler doesn't feel too much like Conan to me. And this is just strictly like me coming from, you know, some sort of art director's standpoint. Like, that's what I would say if I were working for that company. When I think of Conan, I don't think of small buckler shields. There you guys go. Banned for 24 hours. Let them calm down a bit and then come back. Sorry guys, it just always happens. Annoying people. just changing the anatomy right now because a lot of it is a bit weird. And even though this is stylized, it's still awkward. It needs to be fixed. And in the hair and stuff, like the hair should come out a bit more. It looks like, you know, originally it looks like his hair was kind of like shaved on the sides. I'm going to start moving the tentacles around because they're not really doing anything. They're just kind of like about to do something, which is cool, but you should have him be doing that even more so, I think, because he's already super low. It's like he's about to slash and they're about to touch him. But you could have him like starting to wrap around him or something. You know? That would help, in my opinion. And there's a lot of solutions to this. I'm not saying that's the only one. The other thing about the original motions you had going on, let me go back to what it was, is like this right here, and this is something you should never do. Hold on, let me get a better brush up. So this part, let me zoom in. He's like slicing the tentacle, but he's just slicing the tip, and it's awkward because it's not any, he's not doing any like sword slicing motion. It looks like he's falling and it just happened to cut it perfectly. You don't want to do that. Like, Conan is all about big moves and intensity, and if he's just like slicing the tip of a tentacle, it is not intimidating and it doesn't look intense. Plus he's just kind of like falling into a pit and he's like, nah, like, nah, like just like, meh, just kind of slice. Whoops. Like, that's what it feels like to me. So avoid that. Big energetic motions. That's what Conan's all about. Another thing that I'll address is the well itself. It's really bright and that feels weird. So I'm just going to come in with a soft light and emphasize all of the strong highlights you have going on in the face, in the body. You have this really nice, bright orange light, and it seems like the walls of the well aren't being affected by this at all. So it kind of makes them feel a bit out of place. So first thing I'm going to do is darken it up with some sort of, you know, more like a rocky looking brush. then I'm going to come back in and use some more of that orange hue in the walls, like the light is reflected around. It would almost be cool to see, I mean, like what seems like it's going to be fire down there, to see a little bit of that coming up. Maybe in the form of some embers or something. Or, I don't know, you can have a couple little bits of flame shooting out and around. I'll use this really stupid brush I have to quickly show that. I don't recommend you find a brush that does fire well, because it's kind of cheesy. You can always kind of tell when somebody falls back on a brush. But here's some really stupid fire brush that I'm moving around. Just because I don't want to go in and render all the flames. Where can you find that stupid brush? You can go to Crimson Dagger. Just go to the Crimson Dagger's forums. There's a link to, I'm pretty sure, that brush, as well as all the other brushes that I use. Crimson Dagger's forums and the resource section. I want to take some emphasis off of that opening in the well up top, because it's kind of taking away from the focal point. You know, like if I go back to what it was, like here, let me go back. It's really bright up there. I'm gonna tone it down a little bit because he's pretty low in the well. You know, like you can make it bright and, you know, do that backlighting thing that you had going on. It's not totally necessary. You could do either or, but I don't know. Unless you bring in the atmosphere a bit, like this, and kind of lose the edge of it or something. Like that. And bump up some atmosphere around Conan to set some distance between him and the girl. I know it's a cartoony thing, but it still helps to do that. I haven't even flipped this yet. All my stuff could be wrong. That's something you don't want to do. It's just like sit there working on something and then never flip it. Because now I see that my motions were wrong. It's weird. It's like the first time in so long I haven't done that. You should always flip the canvas. Always get a new perspective on what you're doing. because you look at something for too long, you'll lose it. You'll start to become desensitized to all the mistakes. Do I ever flip upside down? I actually do sometimes. Whenever I go kind of crazy on a client piece, I'll end up flipping it upside down and be like, fuck, I can see new things. It's never good. I'm gonna just move his eyes a little bit over to emphasize the new motion that I've put into the image, which is that swing, like he's gonna swing at the you know, tentacle that just grabbed his arm. And also I'm moving his eyes away from the direction he's falling. I always feel like that helps to just, you know, twist it a bit, because a lot of times character will just be moving in one straight motion and it creates just a line straight down, and if there's something there to look at, that's one thing, but if there isn't something there to look at, like right now there's only the tentacles, so yeah, I mean, like, I'm gonna give him something to look at, like he's looking directly at the tentacle. And the secondary light source, as far as like being down in something like this, like you see how he's falling, and something that you did, you made the eye right here, you have like this cast shadow from the eyelids or something, and there's like blue light there, and that's supposed to be the secondary light. But because of the glow you have, I mean, I know it's coming from the tentacles and yours, you know, because you have that strong glow all around, that's already like the secondary light, so you don't really need to do that, you know, like it would still be just that orange. That glow back. Anyways, I hope that helps. Just pushing him more into that you know, Conan full swing sort of thing. The more like you know, like about to slash instead of falling into a slash, just the before motion, and then having him sort of interact a bit more with those tentacles, I feel like helps emphasize the fact that he's about to fall into some big beast, as opposed to all of the really small tentacles that you had here. It doesn't really push the idea of like some crazy monster thing that he's about to just like be attacked by, or there any reason why he'd be scared of it, you know what I mean? Because like he's already falling into a slash and chopping off the tip of that thing. So I mean, like, just getting rid of stuff like that helps sell the idea that it's something more dangerous, bigger, scarier. And then now the girl and the people up top are less of a focus too. So yeah. I'll be saving all of these and putting them all up on the Critters blog, so if you guys want to check them out, anybody I did a paint over for, that'll be up right after this is done. So yeah. So here's the before and after. Before, after, before, and after. So, thanks, man. Thanks for submitting. You know, for everybody else who wants to submit and have a critique for the one that's going on later today, we're having a part 2 of this when Dan gets back. And you can just submit to CrimsonCritters@gmail.com, you know, and hopefully we'll be able to do something with your piece. If you don't know anything else about what we're doing and you're new to the stream, you can go to CrimsonDaggers.com, sign up for the forums, you know, participate, show your stuff for the blood sports, you know, check out the blood sports. Right now we're doing a Miyazaki challenge where you do a new, like, you know, you take any of the 9 canon Miyazaki movies that we have listed and you redesign a cover for it. It can be anything but anime. That's due on Friday, and after that we'll be announcing the next challenge, and you'll have another 2 weeks to do it. So, you know, go and check it out if you're interested, or you're interested in doing the next one. We'll be updating on Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff when it happens. So yeah, thanks everybody for coming on. I appreciate it. You guys are beautiful. I'm gonna play you out with some more of this. Whoops. I don't want to blow your eardrums, so turn it down a little bit. Super Bowl edition. Super Bowl edition. I don't know. It's just me. It is just me today. I was alone. I'm sorry. It'll be better in a couple hours. You know, just come back. We'll be here. It'll be good. Less lonely. More critiques. More paint overs. You know, whatever. Whatever. If you don't like it, you don't have to come. Jerks.